That's a gay-ass podcast.
What? That's a gay-ass podcast. What? A really, really, really gay podcast that we call That's a Gay-Ass Podcast.
That's a gay-ass name for a gay-ass podcast.
Welcome back to That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, the podcast that asks, whose fault is it that you're gay? It is me, Eric Williams, and y'all, tomorrow, I'm in New York City for my goddamn solo show. Why all the drama? It is almost sold out, but if you don't have your tickets, get those for the show at 7 p.m. Thursday at Red Eye. Come hang, come flirt after the show. It's going to be a gay-ass time. Now, for this week's interview, we've got Leonardo, who, if I'm being honest, I first followed for his what? Body hair. And then I stayed following for his incredible videos, and this interview is just delightful. He was a television star in Portugal, where he was born, and now he is living a gay-ass life in Paris. So please enjoy the gorgeous journey of my hairy king, Leonardo. Looky who we have here. Before I say your name, will you say your own name so the listeners can hear the gorgeous accent?
I can. My name is Leonardo Vieira Marques.
Say it one more time.
Leonardo Vieira Marques.
I don't know. It's just
very
your name.
Portuguese.
It is, and it sounds like you're whispering sweet nothings to me, but you're literally saying your government name. It is an honor to have you on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast.
You.
I have followed you for a long time, and yes, it's partly because your body hair is award worthy, but it's also because you have such good energy, such good content. Now, before I get into some of my hard-hitting questions, my first controversial question is you posted a video of you freaking out at the Beyonce concert. Now, true or false, were you at the Paris show? And true or false, was Miley at the one you saw?
Everything is true. So I live in Paris. So I was in Paris. And I was in the first concert, so I saw Miley. So it was really, really cool.
Do you feel like you're a part of gay history?
I do think so, actually. I was screaming, like balls screaming. I was really, really happy. I grew up with her, watching Hannah Montana. So it's really, really cool to see that moment. I was with a friend. So I was just screaming. And she recorded me because the first time of the Beyonce concert, I think it's super cool because you're looking for her. And Beyonce, for me, it's like a goddess. Like,
same.
I go to her concerts and it's really cool because for other people, I usually sing along. And with Beyonce, I'm just like in awe of her. So I'm just...
Yeah, you're like, you'll let her do the singing and we'll just sort of like bask in the otherworldly.
Just standing, looking at that gorgeous person, and then she's incredible. But to see Miley, I think it was super cool because as I grew up with her, and also with Beyonce, which was very important to me. Even like on my queerness, I think Beyonce was very important. But Miley, like growing up, watching Hannah Montana on Disney Channel was my thing, my vibe.
Well, not to sound like I'm doing gay PhD, but Hannah Montana singing, you get the best of both worlds. I feel like queer people, we live in two worlds. We're living in the world where we're hiding who we are, and then we're like we're in our bedrooms by ourselves, putting a towel on our head, pretending it's a gorgeous long ponytail. But Beyonce is, for me, she is my number one diva. I know oftentimes people are like, who's your girl? And Beyonce, I think anytime she goes on concert, I will see her because I saw the Formation tour, I saw Renaissance, I saw Cowboy Carter, and I cry every time I see her.
I always cry. I didn't watch as many as you. I did Beyonce in Lisbon once, and I did Act 1 and Act 2 now. But Beyonce for me is anyone that comes to me. I was having this argument the other day at the office because when people come at me and say they think that she's overrated. So for me, I was like, do not come with a conversation.
Wait, people at your office said that she's overrated?
Yes. How is it possible that people tell you that Beyonce, first of all, is overrated? That people say, I understand that she's a performance, but I don't know that vocally. I was like, let's stop there. let's stop
I
there because
actually
she's
I try to be open-minded to people's opinions, especially about subjective matters in pop culture, but I genuinely do not feel that Beyonce is
this. I
subjective.
shut down immediately. I say, do not talk to me.
Well, without like doxing your coworkers, do you think that the people who think Beyonce is overrated has more issues with themselves that they're not dealing with?
I don't know about that. I'm
Yeah,
not gonna talk about that.
look at me trying to cancel you in your own workplace.
No,
But listen,
actually, depends. To be honest, I think that they're all gay. Actually, because I was thinking, is it that they're straight, but they're not straight?
oh,
They're
even
gay.
worse.
So I think it's just a view of performance that people, or I think that sometimes people think that maybe they prefer people that are more emotional and more genuine in a sense. I feel that Beyonce is tapping into that vibe more lately, that she's more genuine. You can see that. But I think that people, when they look at Beyonce, it's this godlike figure, which is a bit far away from you. So I think that sometimes people like that new artist like Billie
I
Eilish or
see.
someone that is a bit more.
So you're saying that there's like more of an approachability with some other
Exactly.
artists versus
Exactly.
Beyonce is like, I understand that you're being very nice to give that good faith interpretation to your gay coworkers. And I do think that I have been at parties, Leonardo, where like gay men have started arguing with each other about like Madonna versus Mariah Carey. And I'm like, you know what? We don't have to pit women against each other. Straight men do that enough.
love
Women
them
do that
all.
enough to each other. And I think we as gays and queers are allowed to love our Billie Eilishes, our
agree.
Sabrina Carpenters, our
agree.
Beyoncés, our just like we love our pop divas.
We love
but
strong women. Pop divas.
we love strong women. Now, for any of the listeners who don't know your journey, you were born in Portugal, you're currently living in Paris, and you actually were like a television actor for many, many years, starting at 14 years old. All the way until you were 22. Now, I do want to get into what it was like to sort of like grow up on camera and what that type of show was. But before I do that, I think it's important to ask you the famous podcast question. So, Leonardo, whose fault is it that you're gay? Who do we blame, my hairy babe?
Damn. I was thinking about this, and I think there's two things because there's two ways of seeing it. I think television, first of all, is the transversal guilty thing that made me gay, I think. I didn't understand as majority of queer people that I was gay because you tap into that while you grow. But there was two things for me that was really important. I think, first of all, there was soap operas in Portugal, which is the telenovelas. I think you also have it in America.
Yes.
Which they run forever. And then, of course, some actors, hot Portuguese men, they were a bit. Sometimes I would think, do I want to be like them, or do I want to be them, or do I want to kiss them? I don't know. It was very hard for me to understand when I was young, and I would put in my mind, I think I want to be like them. This was what I explained to myself, I think.
Exactly. Will you describe for any of the listeners or people watching, because we're all very visual, will you describe like the stereotype of a hot Portuguese man? What did the hot Portuguese soap opera actors look like, or what was it about their physical appearance that made you be like, hold the fucking phone?
I can think of a person, which is a fellow actor, which is José Fidalgo. You can tap it, you can search after. But he has a beautiful nose, very strong features, so very like kind of Viking in a sense. We had the Vikings actually in Portugal, in the territory. But I think for me, I really like noses. I don't know why. And he has a very, very big nose. And I don't know, for me, that did something to me. I don't know.
No, that's a great thing to be attracted to, because I feel like noses are a bit divisive. I was incredibly self-conscious about my nose growing up because I broke. Oh, you were too?
Yeah.
Why were you self-conscious about your nose?
I don't know. People told me it was big. Two things that I was was my nose and my ears, because I have big ears. Yeah.
Well,
It's fine.
it's
Nowadays
funny.
it's fine.
Of course, because of course, me looking at you now, I'm like, there was no reason anybody should have made fun of you. But also, you know, kids are terrible to each other, and I was very much made fun of. I broke my nose twice, so I like was embarrassed about just it being big, and also feeling like,
But did it change the way that it was?
oh yeah. So here's the secret is that I have never talked about it on the podcast, but I do a whole section about it in this brand new solo show that I'm putting out into the world. And so I guess now is as good as time as ever to tell you that I did get a nose job in high school.
But because you broke it.
Because I broke it twice and literally could not breathe. But I do a whole bit about it, so I'll leave that for the show. But basically, one of the jokes I make is that you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Eric, you got a nose job because it's still big and crooked.
No,
and
but
you know
I love big noses, so it's...
Well, that's the thing is I'm actually grateful that I still have a big nose now because I think if I had like a tiny Christian nose, it would not look right on my
I agree with you. I agree
my
completely.
features. So
these two things are very important to me, which are noses and I think lips as well. But I think the second thing that really made me think a bit more about it was Orlando Bloom in the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Totally.
He was like my thing. So
which is kind of adjacent to Viking. I feel like
I know, I'm
visual.
very diverse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about Orlando Bloom and Katy Perry recently splitting? Do you fantasize about being with Orlando Bloom biblically?
Nowadays, I don't have that thing towards him. I don't know why anymore.
I get that. You sort of move past the horny adulation and more. It's more just now respect. I did see the respect I have for him is the nude photos that were taken of him, like on a paddle board. Have you seen those?
No, but I will.
Okay,
after this.
I'll send to you. He was like, I think it's with Katy Perry, where he's like on the back of like a surfboard paddleboard.
I did.
And he's fully nude, and you see his like pretty nice, flaccid, uncut hog.
Yeah. He's uncut?
Well, now you're making me second guess.
I'm not. Is he uncut? You guys in America are all cut, right? Majority.
Well, I am a Jewess, so I am cut. But I do know that like there's more uncutness happening. Yeah, no, I'm looking now and I'm seeing foreskin. Okay. Portugal is mostly uncut, I presume.
Uncut.
Is it okay if I ask you if you are also a part of the uncut?
I'm uncut.
Okay. Yeah. And how do you feel about foreskin?
I don't care. I prefer. I think I'm very diverse on anyone that I will play with it. But to be honest, I think I don't really care. But as I have an uncut dick, it's easier for me to
you're comfortable.
I know what
have
to
more
do,
experience. Yeah. Is so then in Paris or in Portugal or in Europe, is having a cut, is being circumcised then more like unique than being uncircumcised? Because obviously in the US it is more unique to be uncut.
I think we're used to see cut dicks through video, but because majority of the porn that we watched or whatever was American porn, I think majority.
I mean, America does have
the studios are there, right?
Yeah, I was going to say there's
a
lot of porn here, which is sort of ironic because while of course there's beautiful Americans, I feel like people where you have lived are also drop dead gorgeous. So I would love to see some studios pop up in Lisbon or Paris.
I think there's some nowadays, of course, that the porn industry is so that it's more democratized, not the studios that are doing it. We have a lot of guys in Portugal that do it. So, and majority also that the actors I think that you had in America were not American, right? Some were from around the world, and
there's a lot of international athletes, if you will. I was going to ask you a question about. This is usually not such a horny focus. Usually we do the horny shit on Substack, but
we entered quite quickly on it.
We really did, but I feel like you and I are both just like on a very same wavelength. question is, I used to watch when I was early enjoying pornography. Have you heard of Eric videos? ERIC videos, like .com. Eric videos.
Was it the ones that they was the straight guy? No, the straight guy.
No, that's it. That's a different one. Eric videos was. I just typed it into my browser. It says the best bareback videos on the web. Okay. Well, the reason why I bring it up is because I remember it being a lot of international content, like a lot of like either European guys or I don't know. It just felt very like more worldly than fucking Sean Cody or whatever it was here in the US. But it really is genuinely interesting to talk to somebody living abroad and to hear about, like, especially in the gay community, like, if you're talking with your friends and circumcision comes up, is it like a negative if you find out somebody is circumcised because the norm is uncut? Is that something that is like, is there any stigma there?
I think that Europeans prefer uncut just because they're used to it, to be honest. But in America, I felt that it was weird for Americans that I was uncut. Because I lived in LA for a while. Even though that all of this is very new for me, because as I think I've been with boys only when I was 21. So it was quite late that I understood, or that I understood that I was gay. Or
so
that
you first started hooking up with guys in your early 20s.
Exactly. It was quite late because I had girlfriends, and it was something that happened after. So even for me, and answering back on your question about what made me gay, I think, of course, pornography had an important point, because it's when you start to search for other things, because I watched straight porn majority of my coming of age, but then when I was growing up, but then at some point you start to understand, and people, I always say this to my friends, because even when throughout all my life, I knew that I was different because people told me that I was different. Even before I understood, you don't have those questions in your mind if you're different or not, but people were very insistent in making sure that I understood that I was different.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That hits me hard, because I absolutely had the same experience. I was literally in 5th grade. I'm like, how old? I'm 10 years old, 11 years old.
Yeah.
And being told by kids in my class, I remember I played a sport, and kids from another school would tell me that I was either gay or girly or different.
Same.
And it really is fucked up that other people try to tell you, feel comfortable to tell you who you are before you are even finding out for yourself.
Of course. I think that's the toughest thing of being queer, because you are pinpointed on those differences and you don't even understand them. So for me, I knew that I was different, but I never had any experience with another man until I was 21. And at the same time, I think it was nowadays that going through therapy, or I know there was a lot of repressed things that I was putting down, and not being able to really tap into that part of myself. And that I was just also, as I started on television in Portugal when I was 14, going throughout until my 21, that I stopped in, I think, 2018, 2010 to 2018, that I did 8 years of soaps and series on television. So it was the time, I was born in 1995. So it was the time that I was understanding who I was, that I was going through puberty, understanding or having desires or feelings, or feeling attracted towards other people. But I think that it was quite tough as well, that during this period that I was with cameras pointing at me, it was me that made that choice, because my parents did not want me to enter television. But it was quite tough that when I did my first show, I was 14. I was not a sexual being back then, but throughout that period until I was 21, I started to understand that, and that made me a bit afraid of coming out, because I was playing straight man on a very straight coded storylines on soap
Wow.
operas. So
that's
it
like
was
an
quite
added
tough.
layer of not only shame, but of fear that you're
Yeah, yeah.
either. Did you feel that you were either going to be disappointing people or surprising people in a negative way because you had been giving this projection of straight as you were playing straight roles?
I think, yeah, disappointment. At the same time, which which is funny, is that me being nervous or having fear, I think would out me even more the way that I would act. You know, like because I wouldn't be able. This I think this is the last show that I did on television was the toughest because maybe the last two was the toughest because I was already understanding it, not fully tapping into it. I think in the back of my mind,
Right.
but with people continuously being pointing out the way that I was acting. And when you go through puberty, your voice changes and there's a lot of things changing. And at the same time, you have this layer of everyone is looking at you. I was famous in Portugal since I was 14 because I was doing kind of it was the biggest TV series in Portugal, which is kind of a not a glee but a teen series that you know every year changes characters, a bit like Elite nowadays or Glee that cast is recast every year, and it was huge in Portugal in the early 2000s. So
What was the
it
name
was
of that show?
it's very cute because it's called Morangos com Açúcar, which is strawberries with sugar. So it was very fresh in a sense, the series, and it was a hit in Portugal for 9 years that they did the show. So every year they would change, and I did a year and a half. Of the show. I was very young, but back then it was easy, and I loved doing the show because I didn't, as I was saying, I was not a sexual being in a sense. So the hardest part for me came when I continued to live that life on television and going through the understanding of who I was, on top of the layer of being known, on top of the layer of not knowing what's happening, and not wanting to, I don't know, make people disappointed, my parents, my family, the people that watched me on TV. So it was a bit tough. And I think I hidden myself a bit, in which is the trauma that I think that I repressed a bit.
I have a few thoughts about this. Number one is that I just want to validate how that I already felt an insane pressure about either disappointing people or about being embarrassed about being gay when I finally came out. But I did not have tons of people watching me on TV playing a straight role. So I can only imagine the added pressure. But I think it's really well said that you've sort of realized how that shame was a part of you and that trauma, because now, from my perspective, you are living so unapologetically, and it feels like you're doing it in a way to sort of heal the person that felt like they had to hide. In fact, you have a quote that I really, really like about posting, you know, shirtless and showing your true personality. You said, "I don't think sensuality should ever diminish someone's depth or credibility. It is just one of the many layers that makes us who we are." And I think that so many times which I've talked about on the podcast, I feel worried that if I put out either something that's a little bit, we'll call it sensual, whether it's thirst trappy, even if it's coming from like a place that I'm just trying to have fun, in the back of my mind, I'm always worried that someone's going to say, well, he is just either posting hairy tits because he's got nothing else to offer. He has a low self-esteem and he's trying to just fill a void. He is embarrassing that he is doing this. Even if people are thinking that, it should not affect how I move through the world. But I think it's like that small voice that has always told us we should be embarrassed or we should hide, which is partly why I think there's an empowering feeling towards posting just what actually we feel unapologetically happy about posting.
I agree completely with you. I think I've been speaking or trying to understand a bit this because as I started to be known or being exposed very early on, and then Instagram is quite new for me. I always had Instagram, but I never played with it as much as I do today. And I think I started 3 years ago mostly to take ownership a bit of that platform. But for me, I think it was important to use that platform to be, as you were saying, a bit unapologetically authentic about myself. And I think what happened actually when I was starting Instagram, it was after a breakup. And I felt very lost in a sense, not
yeah.
understanding who I was, because sometimes with the relationships, you lose a bit track of who you are for the sake of the
Totally.
other person.
Totally.
And I literally remember that I went to Italy and I was in Puglia and I had arrived before my friend, so I was staying at the airport and I took my notebook out and I was trying to understand who I was. So I come from business, so I'm very like, opening. Let's talk about it. Let's understand
Yeah.
what's happening.
Analyze.
And then I was like, who am I in a sense? So what do I stand for? And the people that know me, what do they say about me? What are the important points? What do I like? What do I love? What am I obsessing about? So when I made the decision that I was going to start posting more, I was like, I wanted it to be for the first time something that it's authentic, that it really represents who I am. People say that I'm a very sun person, that I'm very energetic, I'm always naked, always been since I was very young, very, very young. So I wanted it to be very me. I love fashion. I love skincare. I love a lot of things. I love decor. I love houses. So I really wanted to make sure that it was me. Of course, that as you were saying, there's another layer of being naked, which for me, before me having this decision of I'm going to do it, which was 3 years ago, as I was saying, I always posted me naked, which were most thirst trapping things that as we grow older, we're growing, we want to have that validation. And me that I felt, I was talking this with my therapist the other day, me that I, at a young age, didn't feel that I was hot or that I was beautiful or whatever. I think it was me trying to have that validation and that a bit pampering a bit my ego of like, you are enough, which also comes from the sense of being gay and you not feeling enough. And then, of course, there's another layer, which you were saying, which is at the same time, this is who I am. This is my body. This is my hair. This is what I like. So, and I want to be like that. So it's both a bit there's this trauma of being gay and you wanting to feel validated that you're enough. But at the same time, there's this idea that I was saying, which is we are these human beings. We are these people. We have hair. We have whatever. And this is who I am. And this is also reivindicating in some way and a bit pushing.
Listen, Leonardo, I absolutely will post my hairy body as a way of healing the younger part of me who really thought I was disgusting.
Yeah.
I mean, not to bring up this fucking show again, but I have a big section again about like how I shaved all of my body hair for all of high school because I was so mortified. And it's been really healing. Like, even if it's just someone like messages me like, I like your chest hair, even though it can sure feed my ego, it's also like affirming the younger version of myself who really felt nasty. You actually have said in an interview that you were also very self-conscious about your body hair. When did that change, or how did that change? When did you embrace this like beautiful fur?
I had hair quite late, I think. I think when I was, a bit before my 20s, in 20, when I was 20, I started to have more hair. So it was quite late in puberty. I didn't have, I remember that I was in high school and beginning of university, and I didn't have much hair. I had some, but it was not as much as I have today.
I did.
You did?
Yeah, I'm like 14 years old, and I'm like, why the fuck do I have chest hair?
That's cute.
I mean, it did not feel cute. I remember just like, fully in high school, just being like, looking at Abercrombie and Fitch bags and all the other boys in my class.
Yeah.
All I wanted
shaved.
was like, completely bare. All I wanted was like the one happy trail
Yeah.
I wanted a one single trail and then I wanted nothing. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, I had trail and forest. But go
Yeah.
on. Yours showed up around like 1920.
Yeah. And then I was a bit weirded out because was a bit of a middle way. I didn't have a lot of hair. It was so I didn't. Of course, that it's new, so you kind of reject it in the first time that you see it. And I think it took me a while. I was like, maybe I should shave because I had hairy legs, but I didn't have it on my chest. And then I was trying to understand what I should be doing it. And I think it was quite I think maybe queer people that made me feel good with it, to be honest. Which is really nice because I think queer people being different in many ways, at some point they kind of validate you in a way, and the whole community on your experience and path. And I remember that being with queer people, they would be like, "Oh, that's super cute. I think you should embrace that." And then at the same time, I think also visually, I think society changed a bit, and nowadays it's fun to have hair. Like
I was
like,
just gonna say that.
It's hot.
Yeah, the culture shifted. Where now, I remember my mom used to try to make me feel better when I was self-conscious about body hair by saying, it's really, people love it. Look at Burt Reynolds, and I was like, Burt Reynolds, he is like long gone, and and I want to look like Ryan Reynolds, who has not a single piece of body hair. Although, can I tell you a hilarious secret, which is that I had a teacher in college who like knew Ryan Reynolds pretty well, and she said he was incredibly hairy and got all of his
no
body
way
hair removed, which I was like, what?
One of my things is that the only thing that I think I shouldn't have done ever in my life is that I lasered I have a unibrow.
And you lasered the unibrow.
I lased it. And nowadays I wish that I had not done it.
Because that's high fashion, hon.
Exactly. So I was like, why did I do that? Because this is why it gave me a bit of perspective that we shouldn't do things that are permanent. Like things change and you can. That's play why I
worry about getting a tattoo, even though tattoos look so hot on people. But I have commitment issues with my own taste.
I pierced my ear just a year ago, and it's I always thought that I would never do piercings or tattoos or whatever. I never wanted, but I pierced it. But this closes if you take so.
And it looks great. So you can, if you want to take it out, you can. Exactly. No, I think it's funny that you lasered the unibrow and you feel like regret over that, because I do. When I went on like a trip with a bunch of fellow Jews, there was a friend of mine who was very hairy, and he was going through the laser process of removing his entire body hair, like front. And I was like, at this point, this was like 10 years ago, but I was still more embracing of my own body hair. And I was like, I think you might regret that. Like, I think you might regret lasering your entire front of your body. Like, you also, and since we're talking about fronts of bodies, you have given us some little peeks of your bush on some of these videos and photos. And I just want to say thank you for your service, because it really, Instagram is not taking it down. And thank God.
Actually, they're not. They've been nice.
Instagram is pro bush.
Maybe they maybe. Actually, I didn't have. I never trimmed much of my hair. Of course, at some years I would trim my bush, but nowadays I've been very hippie on that. So
good. I love a hippie bush, and I think it is the right move for you and for me. Since we are in this subject, I want to ask you another controversial question. When I did my research on you preparing for this interview, I had something happen that was a first. When I Googled your name, there is a thread on a website called LPSG that many gays know that are looking for your nude photos. Now, I think LPSG, for anybody who doesn't know, is like a message board that is very divisive, especially in the gay community, because it's a lot of people being like, hey, here's a person who is just a person who does not do porn, and yet they're trying to find nude leaks. How do you feel about people trying to find your nudes on LPSG?
To be honest, I don't really care. To be to be honest, I don't really care. I think it's normal with the exposure that I put on my body that people that maybe are curious or triggered in that way, that they would know. I think people are curious in every way. I think this has happened since ever. People want to know more about the person. And as I already shared as much, people think that they also should know that, which is something that sometimes it's a bit weird that people think that they need to know everything and that we should be sharing everything.
Yeah, like they're owed access to your full body.
Exactly. And I think it doesn't weird me out, to be honest with you, just because it is normal that people, if they can access it nowadays with everything that you can access, that they would want to access. I have searched for celebrities' nudes just because I was
literally
curious.
in this interview, I just looked at
about
Orlando Bloom. Yeah,
exactly. So I don't think I would be very hypocritical if I would say that oh no, I think it's normal. Nowadays, actually, I think since I started to pivot a bit my content and I started to do it more, I want to do content for Instagram. I feel that I have less people asking me. I don't know if I think my content became a bit more wholesome in a sense. It's not only me posting thirst traps which I would do since I was young, on my mirror and just putting it on stories, and that would ignite a lot of things. Nowadays, I don't get a lot of people asking for nudes on my Instagram, which is super cool in a sense. Because I think the content became a bit more wholesome in a way.
Yeah.
I am shirtless because I am always shirtless when I do my skincare, when I do whatever, when I'm at home. So it's who I am in a sense. And also I like my body. I also like the idea that people feel seen. I have a lot of message of hairy people that also say, I love the way that you also share that with the world and make me feel validated in some way. That's really.
I'm one of them.
That's super nice.
The hair on your shoulders makes me feel not only like attracted, but also like just like validated. And it's like,
it is true that people do not accept even nowadays hairy shoulders. I don't have a hairy back, but I have hairy shoulders, and people still, it's very mixed because here people are like, go for it. Even though that when I go viral on my reels, there are some regions of the world that I get a lot of like hate.
Which is so funny that like we can decide what part of the body is okay to have hair on. It's really sort of, when you zoom out, it's sort of like kind of crazy and that's partly why we felt so insecure growing up, is because people are very specific about what you can and cannot have hair on and look like. The one thing I want to say about the LPSG of it all is that I love your take on it. My only annoyance is that if I am sharing a nude photo to somebody like in a private setting and then someone were to post that, which has not happened to me, and I'm knocking on wood, if it happens, like obviously I would survive, but that's the part that I think is a little fucked up, as like especially queer people who are trying to, I don't know, take care of each other. It's like if we're doing something, Orlando Bloom was out on a body of water fully nude, and if someone takes that photo, like I think you kind of have to be okay with people seeing your uncut hog if you're out in the world naked. If I'm sending something privately and then that gets posted on the internet, that's what feels like violating. But your thread I did look through because I'm a journalist, and there were no nudes, just to let you know.
But the thing is, maybe to be honest with you, that I completely agree with you. I think that if you share it with someone, which is the case on the apps or whatever, or even through whatever the platform that you share with people, I do agree that it is an invasion of your privacy.
Yeah.
However, there's another layer on my head, which is, we know people, we understand when we do share that and this is why I think then you choose the nude that you do, right? You protect yourself. Because nowadays it became a very love currency, right? Even when you do it with your loved ones, it is a love currency in a sense. And I understand that, and people, I think we're living into I think a part of history that there's a lot of things that are new, and we're collectively trying to see what is the best way. And I think social media is a very important part of that. I need to understand how I navigate that, having a corporate life at the same time. I need to understand how what I post is still aligned with that or not aligned with that. I need to feel that sometimes my public Instagram persona, TikTok persona will interfere with my corporate life in whatever possible way, with people feeling jealous or people feeling upset about something that I did, or not aligned, or felt that it's not aligned with the values of the company that I work in. There's a lot of things that can happen. And I think nude specifically as well, it's something that we understand that when we send it to someone, that someone can share it. So we need also to protect ourselves in a way of, maybe, for me it's a bit hard because I think my hair is very recognizable. Very recognizable, because when I started to I started to use Grindr very late, I think only 2.5 years ago. And because I was having never casual sex before, which was very, very new for me. I started therapy as well, and then I understood also that could be a nice way of me understanding who I was as well, casually understanding with other people. But I was very strict on just want to have sex with people that I know. I just want to have sex with somebody that I love. I'm not going to be sharing that, which is great. But lately it changed. It changed a bit. So I think it is important that when you share that with other people that maybe you don't know, that can be shared around, and then protect yourself in what you share.
Definitely. There's a risk with it, but it's like, it's nuanced, because we're living in a time where it's so much more normalized to like send stuff like that, knowing that it should be not sent
I agree.
out.
It should not.
But but you're right that there absolutely is that risk, which is partly why it's like, if anybody's ever sending out any nude, my only advice to them is just make sure you are proud of it. you like the photo, because if it is seen by other people out of your own consent, which is terrible, at least you can be like, well, it's a damn good photo. Because there was an era where, like, remember when like celebrities nudes were leaking like one after the other, and it was like, you were just like, God, another one has fallen, another one. It just felt so, I don't know, I feel like we went from like
because it was new, and
and it was new.
People didn't know how to
like exactly. Speaking of your corporate stuff, I want to get quickly into that before we do our final podcast question. Leonardo, you are working in marketing. Are you still at L'Oreal? Is that the journey?
It's the company that I've ever worked for.
Wow.
After I left business school.
Brand loyal. So you are someone then who obviously loves beauty, fashion. A lot of your videos, you were fully like dyeing your mustache, your body hair, your facial hair. At one point, you dyed your armpits before going to an event. What is it about the A, working at L'Oreal, or B, just like being involved in the beauty space? What is it about that world that has really pulled you in?
I'm a Libra. I'm gonna sound like the Dordella at this point.
I live in Los Angeles, babe. You're in a safe space.
No, but I'm a Libra, and with a Leo rising, and I'm not very, science-driven person, but I do feel that I'm a very beauty-driven person. I like beautiful things, people, things, whatever it is. And beauty is very subjective. I think that I'm very good at seeing beauty in almost everything, which I think is one of my assets, I think. And L'Oreal was an amazing company. You know, that I stopped doing television in 2018, which was right when I started at L'Oreal. And I was very wounded from the television part, the acting side. And I was really having anxiety. And at some point with my therapist back then, I realized that I don't wanted to pursue it anymore. I was like, this doesn't make sense for me anymore. But as it's a very desirable thing that I always wanted since I was very young, I was not being able to accept that it was not okay for me anymore. And I just wanted every opportunity that it would give me, I would be like, let's go, even though that I knew that I wasn't ready psychologically, that I wasn't having fun anymore, that I was having anxiety all the time. And when I realized that, I left. And it was L'Oreal that embraced me in the corporate world, which is, of course, there's experiences. Experiences are multiple in diverse companies because people change, so experiences are different. But my experience at the company was always that it was a very performative company in a sense. It's a very welcoming company for me. It was a very welcoming company for me, and I always felt at home that I could at the same time perform in a way internally, in a sense, because it's how you also galvanize people towards the projects, and you make people hear you and go through it with the projects. But at the same time, it was beauty, as you were saying, so it was always something that I really liked, like skincare and hair things. And I like this idea that I am seen, when people look at me, they see my hair. So it's a bit I think it's fun in a marketing way that I also play with my hair, you know, in the sense that the content that I do, it's also hair, that I also play with it, which is something that people hate, that like, but it's on my hands that I can do whatever I want with it. I can shave it, I can trim it, I can color it, I can play with that. And that kind of like makes me in control in a sense of what I want to talk. And L'Oreal always gave me, I think, the place to be in control of my career, of my journey. I moved I was in Lisbon, then Madrid, and then moved to Paris, and they always helped me with everything. So my experience was very, very nice. But at the same time, as I was telling you, it is sometimes hard that being people, that having this other layer on top of being a corporate life, and people see me shirtless all the time, that they see me playing with my hair all the time, that they see me more than other people putting thirst traps that other people do in their more private platforms. But
Right.
there's a more exposure. So there have been times that I feel that that people have another layer inside of them sometimes when they have that talking to me. And then there is a bit of more effort. And this is why I think the quote that you were saying that I wrote was very linked to that, which is sometimes I need to do an extra effort for people to take me seriously, to understand that I'm more than my hair, than my body, that I also am an intelligent human being, that I'm a very good marketeer, that I can do a lot of things. And this is something that I think I need to accept also, that when I put myself into the eyes of so many people, that I will have some good things that come out of it and some harder things that I will need to be able to manage with that. So it's a bit, you know?
Well, it's a balance. And I think that what you're landing on that's incredibly important for literally anybody, but especially people who have creativity within them, which is a lot of us queer people, is that you pivoted from doing something that wasn't feeding you. It was giving you anxiety. Being on television was obviously a dream, but then you allowed yourself to pivot into a different industry that still allowed you to, in a way, perform. You are, you know, telling stories about whether it's the products or the marketing of L'Oreal. And I think that that is something that I feel very proud of for myself. And I think that every single person who has had to change their path in any way, it's scary and it's hard, but it is almost always so gratifying to at least see that we do not have to have the same dream or journey every chapter of our lives. Because listen, just like you were acting on television, I thought I needed to be on Broadway, period. And then I got to do some theater, and long story short was like, this is paying me horribly. I'm not feeling like I'm being treated like a human goddamn being. And so the pivot is just a huge sense of strength, as difficult and scary as it is. But I have to say, your openness and the way that you have expressed yourself, both professionally and creatively and gaily, is just so delicious, which is why I want to get us to our final podcast question. Leonardo, if the world was ending You could only save one character actress. Who would you save?
This was a long thought
C'est
process.
difficile.
Difficile. Ouais, c'était difficile. I think I would take. Now you tell me if this is a character actress for you, but I think I would take Olivia Colman with me.
Of course, a character actress. A great answer. Tell me why.
I just like how authentic she is. First of all, I love The Favorite. I watched it in the London
Favorite
Film Festival. That part where she's like, "Did you just look at me? Did you look at me?" That is amazing.
She is one of the funniest. You know what she is? Is that she is one of the funniest actresses who also has some of the best dramatic chops. Like I mean, look at her filmography. Yeah. Obviously, like The Crown, the Favorite, her on Fleabag. I would say even the Fleabag came out. Fleabag you would love. I highly recommend. The Fleabag came out in 2016 apparently, but I don't think I watched it until years later. But I feel like I say certain things made me gay, which obviously we're all #born this way. But Fleabag re-gayed me, remade me gay, because Olivia Colman is brilliant in it. She's like a total cunt in the show, which is just delicious. But then like we get Andrew Scott looking absolutely gorgeous as the hot priest. But I just think Olivia Colman is a genius answer, a genius actress, and deserves to be saved. Leonardo, I rarely interview people that I have had like zero connection with, and I really just like had followed you and just had a hunch that you'd be a good interview. And I promise this is genuine. You've so surpassed my expectations. As a hairy king who is a therapized, confident, horny gay. It just has really, really fed my gay ass soul.
That's a good characterization of who I am.
Yeah. So I want to thank you for the hairy representation and for the great chat. Will you please tell our listeners where they can follow you?
They can follow me on Instagram, Leonardo de Marques, with an S in the end. With a Z would be Spanish, so just for you to know. And you can follow me on TikTok as well with Leonardo V. Marques.
It is linked in the description, Leonardo. Obrigado.
Obrigado, really nice.
Obrigado,
really,
Leonardo.
Really nice,
so lovely. And one day we'll be able to compare our chest hairs in person.
I'm actually going to LA. I'm going to LA in September. You live in LA? No, you don't.
I live in LA. You let me know. I'm here.
We can say hi.
Okay, I'll see you in LA in September. We'll celebrate my birthday. Obrigado.
Obrigado. Thank you.
Thanks for joining me for That's a Gay Ass Podcast. If you enjoyed this interview with Leonardo, please subscribe on YouTube or on Apple or Spotify and leave a 5-star review or a comment wherever you are enjoying. It is so helpful to spread the gay ass gospel, and I will personally thank you with my throat. Speaking of horny talk, go to the Substack for this week's very sexy bonus episode with Isaiah Rutledge, a Brooklyn king who has many stories and also has his foreskin. That is at substack.com/@EricWills, where you can see a lot more there. I'll see you in New York City at my solo show Thursday night, which is tomorrow at Red Eye. And then maybe I'll see you this weekend painting the town gay. I love you so much. See you next week. Bye. You've been listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast, hosted by me, Eric Williams. If you want to see and hear more, make sure you subscribe to us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or Patreon at Gay Ass Podcast. That's a Gay Ass Podcast is executive produced by Eric Williams and produced by Nathanael McClure. We'll see you next week.